My name is Mitch Goodard. Welcome to this week's installment of the 77 Group. I'm here with my friend Frank, and we are going to be talking today about leadership, and we're coming to you from the beautiful and historic Granada Hotel and Bistro here in San Luis Obispo.
And tell us a little about yourself, Mitch.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, my name is Mitch Goodard again, and I have a background in corporate Department of Defense, holding leadership roles across the spectrum of industry, and got about over 40 years of experience in that realm. And today I'm going to be talking to you about one of my essential 77 tips for effective and exceptional leadership and crafting and building relationships to help make others great.
And I'm Frank Leone, and this is episode number 2 of the 77 Group's YouTube series. And if you saw episode number 1, you know a little bit about our background and our specialties. But I will say that my background, I retired about 3 years ago, but prior to that had a long career in different places, the Rand Corporation, a hospital administrator in Massachusetts, and then finally as the CEO of Ryan Associates, a company that worked in occupational medicine with hospitals and other healthcare provider and systems throughout the country, and did an awful lot of public speaking and teaching and education and training and communication. So in any event, that's my background, and Mitch and I came together because my background in communication, his in leadership, seemed to blend really well together, and we felt that we could offer something special that might be of value to a lot of people. And we did mention it last week, but a brief review again of what the 77 Group is, Mitch, if you could.
Well, 77 Group gets its inspiration from not only our talents, our friendship, and our work histories, but also the year 1977 has a very specific meaning to both Frank and I and our spouses, the years we met our spouses, and truly great partners in life for both of us. So hence we landed on the 77 Group as a vehicle to impart our experience, knowledge, and expertise to the rest of you.
And if you're asking what our YouTube plan is, let me tell you that. We mentioned it last week as well. First of all, I have completed a book on 77 ways to enhance your communication for both personal and professional, to enhance both your personal and professional relationships. And Mitch is soon to be publishing his book, analogous to it, a sister book, on 77 ways to enhance your leadership skills. And we thought it would be a YouTube channel would be a very good adjunct to those 2 books. And what we're basically doing is taking one of each of the 77 chapters out of each book as an episode, alternating. Week 1 was me, last week on communication. This is week 2, and it is episode number 1 for Mitch in effective leadership. And we're going to run parallel to the book, or to each of our books, in order to share some of the key topics. And the basic format will be that there'll be 5 key tips per episode, the 5 most important things we feel we can share with you about that week's topic. We will invite your questions and input on the back end, and hopefully it'll be of value to people. So we turn it back to Mitch, and perhaps you can get started with week 2's topic.
Well, and real briefly before I get into that, just a reminder that we will be asking all of you watching to, if you want to dig a little deeper and learn something more about today's topic on leadership, or even last week's topic on communication, make sure you put it in the comment portion of below our video here. Also, we ask that you subscribe and like our work so that we can continue to bring more of this to you. But if you have a question, a fun question about us or about today's topic, be sure to enter it in the comment line down below the video. And with that, I want to open up by talking about today's topic. with regard to leadership. And I'd like to first start with people to check your commitment. Ask yourself if you are truly willing to do what it takes to become a great leader. And what that encompasses really is an internal check to see what's going on in your heart, what your motivations are, and to understand what it is about leadership that is drawing you to wanting to take charge, be the one out in front, leading your teams up the hill to success, and to help them be great in successes in their own right. And really what that encompasses for most leaders is they see something either about their workplace, about the team they're on, about the organization that they have themselves dedicated themselves to, where they say, you know what, I think I can take this team to the next level. Or I have the tools, the talents, the insights that are going to help this team achieve its mission, realize its vision, practice its values more specifically, and to overcome the obstacles that I've seen as I've been a part of this team.
Mitch, a quick question for you.
Yeah.
When you use the phrase team, I think it's a very important word. How are you defining team? Is all of your tips on leadership going to be associated with a leader leading teams of people, or is the word team defined a little bit more broadly?
Well, thanks, Frank. Good question. So to be more specific, or to define what I mean by team, it could be as just you and I. You and I are teams. We're a partner in this thing, and when it comes down to it, leadership starts with right here, you and me. What can I do to that individual or group of individuals? But oftentimes it shrinks down to a one-on-one engagement to inspire, to help draw out the talents and the gifts that each individual has. And then as you take a broader look at it and pan back a little bit, you use the collective, and you're using that inspiration to bring everybody, coalesce everyone together to go take the next hill or to achieve the next part of their mission.
So you have some tips, 5 tips for us today.
Yeah, so anyway, the first tip has to do with understanding what it is, again, why you want to be a leader. What gifts do you have, and what talents do you think are applicable in the scenario that you want to take the lead in? After that, I suggest that you ensure by, again, doing a deep dive on yourself, examining yourself, looking internally to understand your why. Why is it that you feel that you are prepared at this time to take a leadership role?
Mitch, another question for you. Your first tip was understand what will be required of you as a leader. Where do you get that information from? I mean, I could say, well, what's required of me to become a leader? Well, I don't know. Where do I go? How do I figure that out?
Well, I think what interests you? What is it that draws you to take a look around you? What your circumstances at work, in part of any kind of organization, where you say to yourself, you know what, I think I can help this team or this group, this individual, get to the next level and start achieving what they say they want to achieve. What's the mission statement? Do I have a place in that mission? Do I subscribe to the values of this organization? And do I think I can play a pivotal role in helping to bring this organization to realizing its vision?
And I want to follow up on your second tip, which was striving to align your role as a leader with your values. And then a second ago, you just mentioned the values of, quote, your organization.
Right.
So I would ask a 2-part question. Number one is, again, where does one get that inventory of A, your role as a leader, and B, and your personal values. And secondly, what's the balance between your values as a human being, as an individual, and the values of whatever organization you may be representing as part of that leadership?
Well, taking your first question first, with regard to what kind of an inventory is necessary, I think people that are inclined to believe that they have what it takes. I mean, the inventory could be any number of things. People ask me, are leaders born, or are they built? Are they developed? Are they crafted to become leaders? And I think it's both, really. When people look at what it is that drives them, what kind of things do they find energy in, and where are their inspirations? That can help identify, well, do I really want to put myself out there to achieve something big here? Beyond that, the next question has to do with, take a look around as you identify what the organization needs, and whether or not your values, what the organization declares as their values, and what your core personal values are. If they don't align, then your soul will really have no place to reside.
Find a new organization.
That's right. You've got to move into an area where you have that inspiration every day, where you're ready to leap out of bed every day, take charge, and get out in front of people to go find the mission, achieve it, and then look for the next horizon to go after.
Let me ask you something else. Assume somebody out there in YouTube world is listening to this, watching this, and is saying to themselves, look, I'm a shy person. Mm-hmm. I've never thought of myself as a leader. I'm pretty reserved and quiet. My question for you is, can shy, reserved, quiet people become good leaders themselves? And if so, how?
Well, yes. The short answer is yes, absolutely. And history is well represented by leaders who were of humble heart, not necessarily the people out in front banging drums and screaming.
Agree.
But those who quietly, steadfastly, and firmly held to their values, held to principle, and were relatable to the people they led. Because when you are principled, it shows. That resonates with people. It's a dynamic that we all can recognize when we see it, and we can also recognize that there's an absence of principle and character.
One other question that occurred to me as you were saying that, again, somebody out there is watching and what they're thinking is, I really don't want to be a leader. I've always been a follow the crowd kind of guy. That's how I like to, or kind of woman. That's how I prefer to live my life. What would you say to that person?
If they don't want to lead, and they're comfortable with being a key contributor or a contributor on any level, then that's the role that they should assume.
So what I'm hearing you say, and I would tend to agree if I'm hearing you correctly, is that a leader can be a very strong leader by just being an appropriate role model and not necessarily practicing proactive leadership applications.
Right, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, and I know there are books that thick that talk about leadership, and again, my opinion, much like the communication tip from last week, be concise. If you're trying to sell a theory or a formula for leadership and you need 600,000 pages to express that, I think you're getting lost in the concept, because really it always boils down to how are you relating with people. If you're going to be humble, by all means. And by the way, when they rank leadership qualities amongst the troops, amongst the people who are being led, humility or a humble nature always ranks in the top 2 or 3, always.
Extremely important point.
Again, because that makes you relatable, that endears you to people, it makes you an embraceable leader. You don't have to be out in front screaming at people, but if you are, again, a leader of character, a leader who is principled, a leader who truly cares about your people, then people will embrace you and follow you and help you achieve your mission.
Well said. Tip number 3?
So tip number 3, and I would recommend that as you are considering your role as a leader, examine the reasons behind your desire to do so. Again, this kind of goes back to what we've touched on here, and as you look around and you take your personal inventory and you look at the circumstance you're in and you feel as though the organization that you're with does have a set of values and a mission and a vision that you truly believe in, then okay, you're probably a good candidate to help others or lead others to fulfill that mission. So when I talk about understanding your why, making sure your values align with the organization's values, and really searching your soul to find out, is this something I'm ready to do and prepared for? Check your circumstance, check the situation and scenario that you're looking to step into, or at least raise your hand and say, yeah, I'll take that role as a leader and take these people here and we're going to go ahead and get this done. All that's got to add up and come together. And if not, then again, look at the organization. Maybe you need to change, or maybe your role is more suited to be a key contributor.
Mitch, from your experience, what are some of the primary reasons that people wish to become a leader?
Well, young leaders or new leaders oftentimes are looking for something as simple as a perceived pay raise. And I use the word perceived deliberately because oftentimes people in leadership role are exempt employees, so it's like, hey, you got from Sunday midnight to Saturday at 11:59 to get it done, and whatever it takes. Or sometimes they might be a little misguided, unfortunately, to think, hey, you know what, I need to be the boss here, without really evaluating what they plan to do. People by and large, though, who are successful at leadership, evaluate the situation and say, here's what I can bring to the table. Here's a skill set, here's a calm demeanor, here's a level of expertise, and here is a human nature interactive skill set that I can bring to the people involved here that I can relate to, inspire, and motivate to do something great.
Very good. Tip number 4?
Tip number 4, so commit to inspiring yourself first. And what I mean by that, Frank, is, you've got to get yourself out of bed every morning. And you've got to prepare yourself to take on whatever lies ahead. And if you're going into battle, into a work environment, into a day of productivity without a game plan and without an idea of what you want to get accomplished, and as important as any of that, without the inspiration to really get out there and do it, then you're going to fall behind. And the people that you're looking to lead are going to sense that. People, by and large, they understand dynamics, interpersonal dynamics, and if you are a leader that's just going through the motions, checking the boxes, waiting for 5 o'clock on Friday to arrive, your people are going to see that their performance is not going to be very inspired, and ultimately you're going to pay the price for that, because when they look at the team's performance, they're always going to look at the leader and say, what happened here?
Okay. We got another question, sort of thinking out loud now, but it would seem to me that when you're talking about your internal inspiration to become a good leader, and I'm throwing this out sort of rhetorically in a sense, it would seem to me that you basically want to define what you want to leave behind in your life. What legacy do you want to leave behind, and then how are you going to get there? And often in one way or another, honing and practicing good leadership skills will get you there. That's my thought, and I'd be interested in your expertise on that.
Well, you touched on something that I use constantly when I am working with groups, teams, interpersonally, one-on-one, and it's a simple question, and you just touched on it, Frank. How do you want to be remembered? What is it that you plan on doing today that long after you're gone or moved up the corporate chain or picked up and just left, what are people going to think about the work you're doing here today? And as a leader, what you leave behind is going to say a whole lot about your ability to lead people. For instance, another one of the phrases I like to use for leaders is, lead yourself or manage yourself out of a job. And what I mean by that basically is prepare your teams, put them in a place where success is really the only outcome, and have them understand not exactly how you think, but how they can think to get the right outcome. Because when you've got a team that can think on their feet, can perform independently, can carry the mission out without you, then you can say, yep, that's a good leader right there. Where you don't have to be present and the one pushing the buttons and saying, do this, don't do that, go down that hallway, pick this up. That's not leadership, that's doing. And if you're the one doing all the work, then what do you need all these people for, right? But how do you want to be remembered? Can the team survive even in your absence and flourish?
How about tip number 5?
So tip number 5 comes down to, and Frank, again, you touched on this a moment ago, has to do with modeling and setting the example of commitment. Just spoke briefly about inspiring yourself, commit to inspiring yourself first, and in doing that, be the model, be the example, be the commitment to excellence and to greatness that you want everyone else to copy. Any leader or anybody will tell you that's been led to say, well, if the boss is showing up 15 minutes late, what am I killing myself to get here 5 minutes early for every day, if it doesn't matter? And if you as the leader are doing these things on a regular basis, well, that becomes part of the culture. And if that kind of culture starts to get legs and starts to take over, your ability to lead gets completely compromised. So model what it is you want the others on your team that you lead to practice. Be committed, be on time, be respectful. All the things that you want them to do, you've got to show how it's done, basically.
One last question, Mitch. I want to go a little bit beyond the notion of leading people and leading a team, and ask you if I'm thinking correctly, that you can be a hermit in a cave and never see another person, but you could be a thought leader and get information out that's going to inspire others and bring others forward, bring society forward as a whole as well. And there may be other examples, be beyond thought leader and team leader. Could you sort of define the universe of potential leadership roles?
Well, we would take several hours, and I don't want to put anybody to sleep, but with regard to thought leaders, you're right. Someone living in a cave is like everybody else in as much as they have an opinion. And thought leaders that are willing to share those opinions, however valid or not they might be, can share those opinions and share those ideas, and at the end of the day, the world becomes a better place when we actively share and listen to each other, share ideas, listen to those ideas, engage those ideas, because through that process, those ideas begin to sharpen. And as they sharpen, then they become more likely to be put into practice, those that are valid and useful. And over time, they may turn into something that's universally practiced. In the broad spectrum of leadership, getting back to what I said about leaders who are made versus leaders who are born, I think both apply. I often consider the leadership provided by a single mother, probably not someone who we might consider to be, okay, this is quite a leader, a Churchill-like leader. But years from now, ask her kids who led the house, who took care of business, who was the one who taught, led, inspired, motivated, comfortable motivation and uncomfortable motivation for these kids to develop and become what they are today. Go back to mom or go back to their parents, both of whom assume leadership roles without any formal leadership training.
Well, very good. Well, anything else you want to add, or can we go to our final comments?
Just that as you look at yourself and consider yourself for a role as a leader, look at what it's going to take for you to become a quality leader, a successful leader. How much of yourself are you willing to give, and how much of yourself are you willing to give on a personal basis? Because first and foremost, leadership is all about relationships. And what are you doing to build those relationships, strengthen those relationships, so that together you, your people, your teams can accomplish something that's great and memorable.
Okay, well, very good. I want to just add a couple of concluding remarks and some reminders. First of all, a reminder that important part of all this is receiving questions from anybody and everybody that's viewing this episode. You can just do it right on the very device that you're using to watch the episode. And we're going to have a little contest, a little fun every week. We're going to give an award, and we haven't quite figured out what the award is yet, but it'll be significant, for the best question of the week, and another award for the best fun question of the week. Doesn't have anything to do with content. Maybe ask me where I got the sweatshirt or whatever the case may be. So we want you to do that. You can do it in the comments section, and that's important. And I might add that any question we get, we will put that question and our response to that question on our website. We feel this is going to be an adjunct to effective learning for everybody. If you have a question, the odds are there may be many other people out there with the exact same question. This is a chance to help everybody. So that's number one. Number two, a reminder to subscribe. We are rookies in the YouTube world, and we are told that it's really very important to encourage people that view the channel and enjoy the channel to subscribe. It's free, it doesn't cost anything. You're reminded when new content is posted, so there's a pragmatic reason to do it, and it would certainly help us. So we would appreciate that. Again, it's sort of out of my domain usually, but I'm advised that it's very beneficial for us in the world of YouTube management to have a lot of likes associated with our presentation. So if you like the presentation, please go ahead and hit like. I would appreciate that. Mitch spoke about his book earlier, and I just want to add a word or two about that. 77 Tips for Exceptional Leadership, Forging Relationships that Inspire Greatness. My book should be just about out. It's scheduled for release sometime in mid-April. And Mitch's book will follow a few months later, mine 77 Ways to Become a More Effective Communicator. And Mitch's sister volume that's associated with Tips for Effective Leadership And we've really tried to write the books in a way where we have 77 relatively short chapters, each chapter being very readable, doable. Here's tips that you have to move forward, must-dos that you should do, takeaways that you need. It's not a bunch of verbiage, it's basically very, very clear, concise roadmap for how you do that one of the 77 different things we're going over as effectively as possible. And I might also conclude on the book issue that you don't have to have the book in order to participate and enjoy our YouTube presentations. You don't have to attend the YouTube presentations if you have the book, but certainly it's a good combination if you have the book and also watch the YouTube presentations, because each episode is one chapter in one of the two books, and you could read the chapter, which is only about 2 pages or so, 2 or 3 pages per chapter, either prior to or following the YouTube episode, and further enhance your understanding of that particular topic. So next week, what am I going to be talking about? The title of my presentation is actually chapter 24 of my book, is called Proof, Proof, and Proof Again. And we're going to talk about proof in some detail, but with a lot of good pragmatic tips. So that's what I have going. So anybody, thing, or organization you'd like to thank, Mitch?
Well, I'd certainly like to thank the Granada Hotel and Bistro for letting us come over and take over this beautiful deck here on their second floor, located right in the heart of downtown San Luis Obispo. This is a historic facility, and if you'll just check the bottom of the screen, we've got their contact information and website link. Make sure that you check them out if you're ever planning a trip here to the Central Coast of California. It's beautiful, and it is literally within walking distance of everything that's fun here in San Luis Obispo. So be sure to check them out, and we thank the Granada Hotel and Bistro for having us today.
And if you're asking what in the world are Mitch and Frank doing in San Luis Obispo, I reside in Santa Barbara, California, about an hour and 45 minutes south of here. Mitch resides in Hanford, about the equidistance to the east of here. So this is basically a midpoint for us to get together to do the tapings. We won't necessarily do all of them in San Luis Obispo, but it's a good place to start.
Absolutely. And San Luis Obispo really is, this is where the 77 group was born.
That's true.
And we've designated it as our field office. We bounce around, obviously, in town here, but we both love San Luis Obispo, and you'll likely see a lot of us coming from different venues here in San Luis Obispo as we move forward.
Okay, and we like to end these sessions, as we did last week, with a special thought of the day. I think it's important for us to connect with the people that are kind enough to give us their time, and we like to end each session with just a personal value and a personal thought. Mitch, you want to be the leadoff hitter this week?
Sure, be happy to. A thought that goes back to one of the great pieces of advice that I got when I was younger, and that has to do with avoid at all costs getting bogged down in the idea that I've got to please everybody. So that's what I would share with you today. You can do a lot of things that'll make you successful in life, but trying to please everybody probably isn't one of them, so avoid that.
And my thought of the day is if and when you err, especially with regard to dealing with another person, own up to it, admit it to the person right away, get it behind you. That's my thought. So we'll see you next week. I'm on next week. Again, I'm speaking on proof, 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 and proof again. And Mitch will be back in 2 weeks, although we'll be here together to probe each other. And again, our deepest appreciation to everybody that has provided us with some of their time to watch this episode.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you next time.